Successful people think this way, and in this same way of thinking, unsuccessful people think that way. The most important, which I learned from Drucker and from many others, is long-term versus short-term thinking. Is really successful people think long-term. Unsuccessful people think short-term. In other words, they go for advantage, opportunity, making money. They're short-term thinkers, whereas the very best people think, where do I want to be in 5 years or 10 years from now? What do I want people to say about me when I'm gone? And so long-term thinkers, surprisingly enough, when you think and act long-term, you accomplish vastly more than if you're a short-term thinker. Successful people think slowly about important things in their life. One of the things that Kahneman sort of touches on, but which I hammer, is the word consequences. And consequences says, you always ask, what are the likely consequences if I do or don't do this? And everything in life is consequences. And the true measure of how really smart you are is your ability to predict the consequences of doing something or not doing it. Milton Friedman said exactly this, the Nobel Prize winning economist. He said the quality of your thinking can be measured by how accurately you predict what will happen as a result. One of the greatest thinkers of history, a man named Frederick Bastiat, said the same thing back 200 years ago. He said that the primary consequences of everything you do are good. You eat this, drink this, do this, because the primary consequences are good, or why would you do it at all? He said, but it's the secondary consequences that are more important than anything else. And your ability to accurately predict the secondary consequences of a behavior determines your whole life. So truly superior people are long-term thinkers. And they make the sacrifice, and they travel, and they invest the time and the money. And it's all aimed at long-term results, consequences, what happens as a result of what you do, and then what happens, and then what happens. So that's what you and I learned right at the very beginning. Is we started exchanging ideas. We read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, and how the mastermind was the starting point of success for so many people. And then we started doing it, and then it was sort of like a baton in a race. We handed off the baton, and you took it and ran with it, and here you are. I used to tell this story in my big seminars, some of my Peter Lowe seminars with 10, 20,000 people. And I say, here's an example. And the example is that people don't follow the recipe for success. If you want to sell successfully, by the way, there's a seven steps that I have discovered and developed, which I teach in 1,000 different ways. I've taught more than 2 million salespeople my recipe for selling. And many of those people have become millionaires. Chip Wilson is also a friend of mine. And he told me, he said he was working as a yoga instructor in a small yoga studio in Vancouver, in Kitsilano, which is a neighborhood. And somebody put him through my course. And I had the course on video with workbooks and everything else. And he said, he suddenly realized that there's no future being a yoga instructor. And so then he looked around, because we teach the superconscious mind in that course, Psychology of Achievement. He looked around and he said, the money is in yoga clothes. That's where the money is. And the quality of clothes being produced, generally speaking, was very poor. So he just came up with this idea of producing high quality yoga clothes made with high quality fabrics, well put together. And the rest is history. As you say, he's worth almost $5 billion today. He told me when he brought me up to speak, we spent 2 days together. He told me that basically these ideas made him rich. Very, very simple ideas: to set a goal, work on your most important goal, unlock your creativity, and so on. He's a super guy. He's one of those guys that deserves to be successful. You're happy for his success when you talk to him. So the key is get the recipe. If you want to be excellent in sales, 20% of salespeople earn 80% of the money in sales. Why? It's because there's a recipe for selling. It has 7 parts, 7 ingredients. If you follow the 7 ingredients, what will happen is it'll come out at the other end, sale after sale after sale. And if you don't, if you want to be successful in business, you have to have a marketing plan. As our friend Dan Kennedy says, is that whatever business you're in the marketing business. And your success or failure, your income, the size of the house you live in, car you drive, what happens to you in life is determined by how good you are at marketing your product. And marketing is attracting qualified people who can and will buy your product or service within a reasonable period of time. Marketing means attracting people who can and will buy and pay for your product or service within a reasonable period of time. And so therefore, once you learn how to market, you can market any product, if it is a sellable product. So people have to learn how to market. In selling, by the way, and I'll just give you this quickly, I produced a program called Psychology of Selling. And Psychology of Selling, according to their research, has made more salespeople millionaires than any other single training influence in the world. Countless people write to me and tell me, OMG, OMG, it made me rich. It made me rich. You changed my life. You made me rich. I hear that so many times. You changed my life. You made me rich. And it's not because I'm a genius. It's just I found the recipe and worked with the recipe. Okay, so let me tell you my little story, because it is outrageous. The story is I wrote a book, and I had problems with my publisher and problems with promotion. And finally, I found that if you're going to write a book, you need to invest about $100,000 to promote the book, because the publishers will not help you. They will publish the book. They will get the book into the bookstores. They will make it available through the book distributors like Ingram's, but they won't help you. And I thought if I published the book, they would promote it. So the book came out, and it sold 35,000 copies out the gate. And I said, well, geez, this is great. They said, well, I don't know, maybe we'll continue to produce it. Maybe we won't. And I said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, we'll do a paperback for it. And anyways, they just let the book fall on the floor. And so I went out and I found an agent, a promoter, a publicist, and she agreed to promote the book for $10,000 a month. So I said, okay. So I gave her $10,000 a month, and she was a brilliant promoter. She got the book. She got me doing interviews. Interviews were the primary way, maybe still the primary way, to sell a book. And after about 3 months, and she got me more than 100 interviews, and the book sales went up. And then after 3 months, the book sales started to drop down, and the interviews dropped, and the interviews disappeared. And I said to her, I said, what's happening? They said, well, you've had your 3 months. I said, what do you mean? They said, well, the people that will interview you for radio, television, magazine, so on, will interview with you 3 months before the book is released and 3 months after it comes out. And then they go on to other books. There's 100,000 books a year that are published. And I said, well, how do I get them to publish? He said, you can't. You have to write another book. He said, write another book? Yeah, write another book, and then you get into the cycle again. And I said, okay, I'll write another book. And I made a decision at that time. I'm going to write one book every 3 months. And then there'll always be a book in the transit. There'll always be a book in the production line, and they would publish it. And so I did. I started writing a book every 3 months. I wrote a book every 3 months for 26 years. And some years I wrote 5 books and 6 books, and 1 year I wrote 7 books. And I just kept pumping them out, because no one book is going to be successful, but one book will support another, which will help another, and so on. And the more you write, by the way, the better you get at it. And it's very important that people understand this. Is you don't. I spoke to a professor at the university, and he said, how do you write a book? He said, just write. He said, just write. That's how he teaches people at the university. Just write. Sit down and get on with it. I mean, there's no big complicated, just write. And he said this, and I never forgot this. He said, you can't get worse at it by doing it. You can't get worse at it by doing it. At Goethe, the Greek, the German philosopher said, everything is hard before it's easy. Writing your first book is really hard. Most people actually don't sell books until their 3rd or 4th, sometimes their 5th or 6th book. And if that book takes off, then all the others start to sell. And now there's a market for you. And so today I have 7 major publishers in the United States, English publishers. So if I decide to write a book, I think of a subject, and I will call one of them or more than one. I'll say, if I write a book on this subject, will you publish it? And some people say, well, it fits into our schedule this year, or no. But I'll always find someone who will say yes, because when you write a book, people buy it. So I don't have any remainders.
Every human being has an intense desire to improve themselves. It is the driving force of all of human life throughout history. And all you need to do is remove the barriers from ambition and goal setting and achievement, and people will naturally strive for the barriers, strive for the goals. Here's the problem. The problem is 70 years of communism. 70 years of communism kills the soul in most people. So it takes a full generation after communism before a whole new people grows up who do not have any of these limits. So you'll find that most of your successful entrepreneurs in Poland are younger. And they have no limits because they did not grow up under that system. Now, if Poland wants to be more prosperous in the future, and it's already one of the most prosperous countries in the world, if it wants to be more prosperous, it must take away regulations and taxes that hold people back from starting new businesses and enterprises. That is the key to success in every economy in the world throughout history. You can do anything you put your mind to. And whenever they're discouraged, you say, look, just keep trying. You can do anything you put your mind to. You see, the most important quality for success is to never quit. If you never quit, then you must eventually be successful. When my two sons graduated from college, they came to me 4 or 5 years apart and asked me for my advice on how to be successful. And I said, go out and get a sales job, knocking on doors and making sales. And do that for 6 months or a year. And after that, you'll never be afraid again. And they both did it. And today they are so confident and so persuasive, and they're so relaxed. My one son said, I'll never have to worry about money again because I'm not afraid to sell. And that made me so happy. According to Harvard, it is the #1 personality skill. Most important of all personality skills is your ability to persuade others to cooperate with you, to work with you, to do their work, buy your product. Because the reverse of that is that you are simply persuaded by others to do what they want. People choose to be teachers because deep down inside they fear depending upon their ability to persuade for their income. So they choose a profession where they don't have to actually get results. And once they have tenure, they can never be fired. That's why people work for the government. Because once you get a job with the government, after a reasonable period of time, you have job security for lunch, and you never have to persuade anyone to be successful. Entrepreneurs are completely different. They are willing to make all of their success dependent on their ability to get results of some kind. One of the things that I've told my children when they were growing up, because I am programming them, I say, I know one thing about you. You never give up. And each of my children, they would say, oh, I got this. I said, well, I'm your father, and I know one thing about you. You never give up. All 4 of my children are growing up. The most important quality is ambition, is a very intense desire to improve yourself through your own efforts. And ambition is the one quality that if you have it, you will be successful. And if you don't have it, nothing can help you. I had a man in my seminar who came up and he said, look, he said, I make a good income. I'm quite happy. I have no desire to earn any more money. And so you talk about ambition. What do you suggest I should do? And I said, why don't you go and shoot yourself? Because you have no future. If you're not hungry to improve your life, it's interesting. Men, when they get married, increase the amount that they work by 30 or 40 or 50%. And they also increase their time management. They become more productive because now they are providing and taking care of their family. And that's very important for men, to know that I'm taking good care of my family. So their level of ambition or desire or determination goes up when they get married, because now they want to be sure that their family is well taken care of.
No, right?
And they even die, and men die an average of 7 or 8 years younger. It's very important to understand that when you are young, you must work extremely hard to be successful. The average is about 60 hours a week. If you're not working 60 hours a week in your 20s and 30s, then you probably will not be very successful. You'll always worry about money. You'll never have enough money. So therefore, you have to have imbalance at a certain stage in your life. But then you have to make up for it. So, for example, I work and travel long distances. But when I'm not working and traveling, I spend all of my time with my family. My children once said to me, we were having dinner, and they all agreed. They said, you spend more time with us than, even though you travel all the time, than our friends' parents do, even though they're home all the time. Because their parents play golf, watch television, work on the computer, do other things. But when I am not working, I spend time with my family, and that's how I've been able to achieve balance. The most important part of your personality is your level of self-esteem, which is how much you like yourself, how much you feel very good about yourself, you feel valuable and important. And self-esteem, very simply, comes from task completion. We say that the self-esteem is on one side of the coin, and the other side is called self-efficacy, or how effective or productive you feel you are. So every time you complete a task, it gives you a burst of self-esteem and energy. If you don't complete tasks, you go around in circles. Here's a question. Have you ever seen a happy government servant? No, because they never complete any task. Government tasks are always circular. And so they're never happy, and they're never enthusiastic. And they always want more money and less work, because they think maybe that will make them happy. But what makes you happy is starting and completing the task. Even if what you do is you make dinner or part of dinner for your family, and you all sit down and eat it. And they say, that tastes really good. You feel happy, and you want to do it again. So when I write a book, and I have a reputation for submitting my books on schedule, and in publishing, that's a big problem. 80% of authors don't submit the book on time, and that really hurts the publisher. So they say to me, would you write a book on this subject? They asked me to write a book on self-discipline, which has now become a worldwide bestseller. I say, yes. When do you need the book? What date? And so I say, well, we need the book by September 1st. So this is January or February. I say, all right, I will have it in your hands, ready to go by September 1st. Now, because I know how long it takes to write a book, and it's always on time. And so the next time they say, we need someone to write a book on a popular subject, they call me and say, would you write a book on this subject? Because they know it will be completed on time. Setting goals, having very clear goals that you're working on every day, gives you tasks to complete. So we start off that book talking and the importance of setting goals and how to set and achieve goals, because that is the point of the spear. They just did a study and they found that 95% of rich people have one big goal that they work on all the time. Only 3% of poor people have one big goal. And so one of the most successful things we do in our seminars, and I'm sure you do the same thing, and in our books, is we show people how simple and easy it is to take a piece of paper and write down a goal and make a plan and work on it every day. And that transforms people's life. Aristotle said that the great goal of human life is to be happy. And he also said that human beings are purpose-driven. And they are only happy when you feel yourself moving toward achieving a purpose or goal. If you don't have a goal, you're missing one of the great keys to happiness. And so when you have a goal and you work on it every day, you're constantly feeling happy. It constantly gives you energy and self-esteem. As you work toward the goal, your confidence level goes up, and your people around you like you and respect you more.